Hello, people. I am Chirag Mehta, and I'm Vice President and Principal Analyst with Constellation Research. But you know what? I want to change my title. I want my new title to be Chief Vibe Coding Officer. I mean, wouldn't that be cool if I were to be responsible for all the vibe coding that's out there? Developers and non-developers using AI tools to generate this code and applications. But on a serious note, that is what's happening. What we are seeing that 50, 60, in some cases 70% of code that goes into production applications is actually generated by AI tools. And guess what? The test cases that would test this code or these applications is also being generated by AI tools. So here we are, where we already had fairly complex code base, and now we have this amazing AI that is giving us productivity gains, but that is also introducing uncertainties. Uncertainties such as, do we know whether this code is inherently secure? What if there are known vulnerabilities? Do you know how many packages, how many open source packages you have? Do you know what your code dependency looks like? And that's why as part of Constellation, we have a shortlist that I manage. It's called Application Security Testing, or AppSec testing as it goes. And the reason being that it's not only important to test code and scan code and make sure it does not actually have any vulnerabilities when you are writing it, but it's also important to actually test this thing once it's actually deployed in production. Because guess what? That's very tricky. So as part of my shortlist today, I'm going to talk about a company called Kodem Security. Kodem, cool name. Kodem means first or early in Hebrew. And the founders have a heritage of having worked in an Israeli defense to having done red teaming. And red teaming essentially means, how do you really break something? If you are testing for vulnerabilities, the one thing that you really want to make sure that you know how to break stuff. You need to have an attacker's mindset. You don't need to have a defender's mindset. You need to have an attacker's mindset. The folks who have an attacker's mindset have designed some of the best tools. And Kodem's focus, specific focus, happens to be on application security. Well, what does that mean? You would say, well, are you not scanning code? Like, are you not securing code? Have you not checked your pipeline? And, I hear this thing about called shift left. And yes, we want everyone to shift left. You should absolutely shift left. You should test your code as you're writing. You should test your code. Once you are done your writing, you should make sure your pipeline, your CI/CD pipeline, and all the packages that you are using your dependencies on are scanned for known vulnerabilities. So you don't ship anything that has vulnerabilities, or that at least has known vulnerabilities. But guess what? How do you test something once it runs? It's very difficult to test piece of code once it's part of an application, because application brings its own issues. No application works in isolation. You design an application, and end user would use your application in conjunction with 5 other applications. It would use open source packages that you don't even know your application can interact with. You have APIs that you use to connect with other systems. You have containers in which your code resides, and your containers could have challenges. You could end up consuming resources. You could end up allocating memory that could be unsafe. And this is a gift to adversaries, because what adversaries are looking for, they're looking for the weakest link. They don't really care how much you have tested your code. They're looking for tracking down the application interaction and the place where they can find an opening where they can actually come and attack. And this is what Kodem Security focuses on. They really understand the packages that you have dependency on and not just at runtime, but while your application is running, if it is using specific functions and those functions might actually have inherent vulnerabilities, they scan for those too. So not just static security, it's important, and not only dynamic security is important, but you want to make sure that you are doing dynamic security and static security together when your application is being used by your number of end users. And you have to keep doing this thing. So Kodem is part of the shortlist. They're focused on application security. Check them out if you haven't seen their solution. Remember, shift left, test often, make sure that your application is secured, because your job is not done once you have shipped the code. Your job begins once you have shipped your code, because your code is now part of an application that could be a point of interest for the adversaries out there. So take care, keep shifting left, and happy vibe coding.